I don't normally bash religions on this channel. I'm not a fan of it, even though there is some positive benefits for people on the identity side of things. The cost to the existence or the reality side of things to people outside the group or even within the group is too much. And what people gain from religion, that extra bit, it's exactly that extra. When you leave religion, you sort of, a lot of religions, not every religion, but the ones that are insist upon cathartic, cathartic transformation in order to fall within the in group. When you end up going out of the group or being, whether it be being excommunicated or not being able to accept it and then gradually drifting out of it, there's a sense of loss. But what you've lost is actually something extra. It takes years to get over it too. When you're facing life without that extra, you start to think that life is sort of empty. But in reality, you've been kind of like a drug addict the whole time, where you were addicted to a masturbatory gem that you didn't even know was extra. Okay? And people might say that it's your soul. And it is part of your identity. But the part that drives that gem that thrives and exists through the exclusion of the other is disgusting. And the only way to be rid of that is to let the extra go and face reality for what it is. Get used to what it is. And then what happens is you find an extra in things like art, music, philosophy, studying, side projects. That's your extra, not insisting upon your identity at the exclusion of the other in a masturbatory, parasitic subgroup mentality, okay? None of that is scripted. It's just the way that I feel about it. I'm just saying that here. I'm going to keep it out of the other videos. I've always thought Pascal's wager was silly because it sort of assumes that there's nothing to lose for you to believe, in religion X, Y, and Z, most notably the Christian religion, because Pascal, you're not going to lose anything if you just believe. Hey, then you go to heaven. But if you don't believe, then you go to hell. What have you got to lose when in fact you have everything to lose, including your individual identity, your living with intent, understanding reality for what it is, not being beholden to, loyal to a subgroup that's not always good. So there's a plenty to lose. So Pascal's wager is only beneficial or seemingly beneficial to someone that has no idea what they're actually doing, in the moment. And also while researching Pascal's wager, I came across it in lens form, which is what I call it. It's when you take a dichotomy or a concept with basically balanced polar opposites and you affirm or deny them, and you end up with this like quad format. Like my favorite one is the one that I use to map out motivations for things that we do, like myself for myself, myself for the other for myself, and the other for the other. You can see the pattern and how it correlates with reality. It's not really fabricated, it's more descriptive of the way that things happen out in the world. But let's start with the lens for Pascal's wager. Pascal framed his wager question like a high-stakes gamble. If God exists and you believe, you get eternal reward. If God exists and you don't believe, you get eternal loss or damnation. If God doesn't exist and you believe, you don't lose anything. Like I said before, as if there wasn't anything to lose by just giving yourself into something that basically annihilates your individual identity. I mean, if God exists and you don't believe, actually not much changes for you, right? You don't gain anything and you don't lose anything. And it sort of presents things as a coincidence. You're lucky that God doesn't exist because you didn't believe and you managed to karmically balance yourself out. But there's no evidence for the existence of God. I mean, it's just, we're a multitude. People lose their parents and then they realize that their parents weren't all that special after all. And so there's an innate notion from your childhood to create an eternal parent, I really think that's it. The multitude in the singular, the desire for an eternal parent to sort of mitigate the notion that really our parents did no shit. And now we have to face the reality that we don't know shit. So basically Pascal's saying, just believe in God. What you've got everything to gain and nothing to lose. So criticisms are like, the first one is obvious. So your God is the God of everybody because there's thousands of gods. What if there's another religion that's true? You know, of course, the wager doesn't assume any other religion that could possibly be true. Also, the notion that can belief be genuine if you're doing it to, for self-interest because you want to go to heaven. So, hey, I believe. That's it. I'm going to heaven. That's another criticism. Pascal's wager can be seen in other places in the world. So one of those places is climate change. If climate change is real and we act, we save the planet. If it's not real, we get cleaner energy. If it's real and we don't act, we get, we destroy the frickin' planet, the only place we have to live. If it's not real and we don't act, so, by coincidence, we sort of get lucky. We don't get cleaner energy, but we get lucky. AI alignment. If super intelligent AI poses existential risk and we work on alignment, we prevent catastrophe. If it doesn't present a risk, we build cautious ethical AI. If it presents a risk and we ignore it, possible extinction. Or let's just say wage wars, If it doesn't present a risk and we ignore it, nothing changes, we get lucky. So Pascal's wager for God comes down to one silly notion that puritanical paradigms don't harm the freedom of the individual at all. What have you got to lose? They certainly don't push you towards anti-intellectual positions. They certainly don't teach you that God is more important than family. They certainly don't string people along with false claims of superiority or false pity. Justice is in nature. Symmetry is in nature. Necessity is in nature. Rights, fairness, and justice all ingrained in our evolutionary emergence. As you guys know, I stand against subgroups a lot, I stand against religion. I stand against nationalism. I stand against, most identity subgroups that are affirmations of separation. But that doesn't include groups that are reactive, such as the gender identity group. That is a reactive subgroup that's necessary because other subgroups persistently attack a certain group of people. And so in reaction, we have to form these subgroups to protect those people. That type of subgroup, a reactive subgroup, is not the same as an affirmative subgroup that, excludes as its center principle. So just because we categorize things with language and we draw circles around things, that doesn't mean all things are equal, relativist. We have to look, are these affirmations of exclusion or are they reactions to protect certain groups? And so when I'm talking about subgroups and eliminating subgroups and subgroups are immoral, I'm talking about people that affirm subgroups that subvert universal necessity. I refined universal humanism into final two rules. One rule, survive in such a way that you cause the least amount of damage or trouble or problem for the guy next to you who's trying to survive. Rule 1 for necessity. Rule 2 for ideology, do good for the less fortunate other. Those are the only two rules you need to exist in your life as an individual, as part of any subgroup, and to reinforce justice, ethics, morality. Those two rules, and they come up multiple times by multiple philosophers in different ways. But after working on it for many years and reducing all the extra, those are the two rules. Act in such a way as to keep yourself directly or indirectly from preventing others from surviving themselves, and ideologically do good for the less fortunate other. If you guys like this kind of philosophical subject matter, help us out by liking the video and subscribe for 2